So let's record screen. Are we recording? Yes, we are. Make sure this is real big. Cool. Hi. My name's Brendan, but if you're on the internet, my name's B5, and today I'd like to tell you about Qri. We spell it Qri and pronounce it Qri, but you can pronounce it however you want. I'm not there to hear you say it. Formally speaking, Qri is a data thingy. It's a command line tool. It's a piece of software. It's something you can download and use on your computer. You can use Qri a number of ways. There's stuff other than the command line tool, but today we're going to show you the command line. And so to show you the command line, I think it's easiest to just jump right in. So here I have a terminal window, and I'm just going to type Qri and hit enter. And here we can see a whole bunch of nice and useful help text. Qri does a lot of things, but today we're just only going to talk about creating data sets, because Qri mainly works with data sets. I think the easiest way to sort of see a data set is just to make one. So let's make one. So I'm going to type Qri save, which is the command for creating a data set. And I'm going to give it a flag called body, which we'll get to why that is in a second. But I'm going to supply it this file called since.csv and hit enter. Congratulations, you've made a data set. Where did it go? Well, we saved it to a local repository that is stored on my machine. So right now the data set is actually stored on my computer, just in a special place. And then just to prove that, I'm going to publish that data set somewhere. So I'm going to type Qri push me/since. And it's uploading to somewhere. I happen to know where it's uploading to because I'm going to show it to you. If I go to Qri cloud/b5, which is my username, and type since, we can now see, hey, here's the data set. It was created a few seconds ago, and now it's on the internet. And if I want to, I can download it. Let's download that zip. And it will show us the whole thing. Cool. Save the file. Nice work. A couple of things. First, Qri has created a data set, and the definition of a data set is a little more specific in Qri than it is in other places. You've been seeing me reference the word body a whole bunch. We think about data sets as being composed of components. And so there are different types of components, and the first one is the body. The body is the most important thing. It's the data. If you've ever worked with HTML, HTML is often divided into head and body sections. That's kind of what we're riffing on here. But if we want, we can make a data set with another component, and we can do that by adding a version to this data set. All data sets inside of Qri are version controlled, which is helpful for tracking changes over time. So this time I'm going to type Qri save again, but this time I'm going to supply two new files. I'm going to supply the file flag, and I'm going to give it readme and meta.json. Readme is a markdown file. This is a really common convention from the world of software. And meta is a set of structured metadata. And this time I'm going to supply me/since. In Qri, I can, whenever I want to talk about myself, I can just type me. And so me/since is the name of the data set that I want to add a new version to. So I'm going to hit enter. Cool. Now if I do Qri log me/since, we can actually see a log of versions. And this shows us the different versions over different times. So here I created this one 3 minutes apart in local time, which is really fun. But you'll also notice that Qri is automatically generating commit messages for me. So Qri is interpreting this structured data format called a data set, and looking at each component and understanding what I'm changing, sort of, and writing these really simple messages to understand the commits. This is really useful for data where we don't always have a human in the loop. Sometimes you have Qri sitting on the end of an automated pipeline, and you want to be able to sort of just create and save new versions. Cool. So let's be good citizens. We've added a README. We've added some metadata. Let's push those changes up. I'm going to do Qri push me/since one more time. Hit enter. Cool. It's uploaded. Let's go back to Qri Cloud and reload the since data set. And we can now see that a couple of things have changed. And Qri Cloud does a really great job of displaying some of these components for us. So we can see this README component added actually includes structured markdown. And then if we twirl open the meta tag, we can see here that there's standard metadata that I've created earlier. Qri along the way has also been inferring a structure for me. Structure is our way of keeping track of schemas and data formats and things that are really important for being able to machine interpret the data that's involved. And so along the way, when I first created this data set, Qri just inferred a structure for me based on the way that the CSV file looked. And it actually picked up that the year of release of this data set is an integer type, and then the manufacturer and ID are just string types. The column titles are pulled from the CSV file itself. And if I want to, I can come in and change and add a whole bunch of things to create better validation rules for this CSV file. What's important to note, though, is Qri accepts data that's in a bad form. And this allows you to sort of start with raw, messy data and work it up into something that's far more useful over time. And that's all really exciting. We've now just created our own personal data portal. We're uploading version data sets. They have history. We can see what's changed. People can download specific versions. This is really useful. But what else can we do? Well, Qri has a SQL command. So you can just query directly from data sets as you need. And so in this case, I'm going to scroll through my version history I'm going to scroll up through my bash history because it's a lot easier. In this case, I'm going to type a really simple query where I'm just going to select all of the stints where the year of release is after 1985. Cool. I'm going to hit enter. Wham. Cool. Now we have data sets that are neat and interesting. So from here, there's a whole bunch of things you can do. You can use query diff to look at the difference between two versions. You can use the SQL command to select from it. But I think one of the other most interesting things to show is sort of what happens when another user wants to use your data. So we have this nice pile of data sets, right? We've got data sets up on the cloud. What if some other user want to use it? So let's pretend for a second I'm in a different terminal. I'm now a different person. I'm this person named B6, completely different person than me. And if I do query list, which lists my local data sets, we can see that you have no data sets. Okay, interesting. Now, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to type query SQL, and I'm going to run a special query. And so in this, what we're doing here is we're selecting from two data sets. I'm selecting from B5 World Bank population as the population table, and from World Bank GDP as the GDP table. And I'm going to join those two together where the country codes are the same, so we can match country to country. And I want to just select the name of the country, the year of its population in the year 2019, and its GDP in the year 2019. And I'm going to hit enter. And what Qri is going to do is it actually knows what I'm talking about. When I mention these data sets, it knows that I don't have them locally. And so it's going to go to a registry, fetch them, download them locally, and run the query. And it'll give me the result. Here I have GDP and population by year, which is nice. But now if I type query list, I can actually see that it has downloaded the latest version of these two data sets. And if I want to, I can get the log of one of these, query log, the World Bank GDP data set. We can see it only has one version. And if I want to, I can do query checkout. If I spelled checkout properly, that'd be good. Query checkout, I can run that, and we can now see there is a new folder in my local directory called World Bank GDP. I can cd into it, and I can do ls. And Qri has rebroken out those files for my local file system for me to locally work on. And so now if I want to, I can use any other tool that speaks CSV files and just use this folder to talk to these data sets. And then if somebody, say, issues an update to that data set later, I can just type query pull and the name of the data set, World Bank GDP. That'll that will go out to the web, check for the latest version, make sure I have it, and download it. In this case, I already have the latest version, so there's nothing to update. So that's a quick introduction to Qri's command line tools. Everything that you saw today is open source and available at Qri.io. All the data sets that you saw today are available too. They're up on Qri.cloud. We'd really love it if you could play with Qri and let us know how we could improve it. The project as a whole is an effort to make the world of working with data a better one, and we hope you'll join us. Thank you so much.